Did you know you can control your Chromebook just by moving your face? There's a fairly new feature on Chromebooks that now allows you to fully control your Chromebook and click on things just by moving your head and making different facial expressions. The main use for this feature would be if it's physically difficult or impossible for you to use the keyboard and trackpad or mouse to control your Chromebook, but it's also a cool, fun thing that you could try out and might be helpful at times, and maybe you'll even be able to think of another really good use for it. But before you can use it, there is a bit of setup you'll need to do, and it can actually take a bit of practice to get used to it. To get started, you'll need to open the Settings app to enable it and set it up. The easiest way to do that is to come down and click on the time in the bottom right-hand corner here to bring up this menu, and then in this little menu, click on the Settings icon down here. And now you'll be in the Settings app here. And in the Settings app, you'll need to scroll down in this left-hand menu to come down to Accessibility down here. And in the Accessibility menu, find Cursor and Touchpad and click Cursor and Touchpad. And in this menu here, you should see Face Control. And you can click on that to open up all the face control settings. So now in here, the first thing you'll need to do is turn face control on. So it's currently off, and we're going to click this button here to turn it on. And it will ask you, do you want to enable face control? And you just click continue here. And now it will download face control files in order for you to use face control. So it will have to download some extra files. Sometimes this can take a little while. It shouldn't take too long at all though. But you'll see a notification pop up telling you that it's downloaded those files. And then once it's downloaded and ready to work, it'll activate automatically. And you'll also have this notification here that says face control is active and a button to turn off face control. So now, immediately, right away, you can move the cursor just by moving your head, which is really pretty cool. But to start with, Timmy's actually going to turn off this setting here and click yes here so that the cursor will not be controlled by Timmy's head. We'll turn this on in a minute and have a look at all of that. But for some people, if you don't want to entirely control it with your face, face control can still have some helpful features without the cursor setting turned on. What Timmy wants to look at first is the actions down here. So we have actions here and they're already turned on by default. And the two default actions it comes with are open your mouth wide to scroll and smile to left click the mouse. So a left click is a normal click as opposed to a right click. So smile is basically a click. So if we hover the cursor over something we want to click on and we smile at the Chromebook, it will click. And it works just like that. So we're on here now. Timmy hasn't clicked anything. Let's position the cursor on top of this Google Docs tab here to open that. No hands at all. And we're on that. So that's pretty cool. And to scroll, we open our mouth wide. So you open your mouth to activate scrolling mode. And now that scroll mode is on, you tilt your head down and it scrolls the page down, and you tilt your head up and it scrolls the page up. Maybe we'll scroll down to about here, too far, up a bit, stop there. So it's a bit hard to get the hang of, but the more you use it, the more you get used to it. And then you open your mouth again to stop scrolling mode and make it go back to normal. And now we will go back to the Settings app. So the way this all works is it is using your Chromebook's camera to watch your face. So you need to make sure the camera is not covered or anything and it's positioned in a way that it can see your face well enough, basically pretend you're getting ready to do a video call. It has to be able to see your face pretty clearly to know what facial expression you're doing. But those are two actions you can use like this. So even if you don't want to fully control your Chromebook by moving your face and everything, you can leave this cursor movement setting off and just have actions turned on and have a few different actions. So maybe you want to sit here and be able to click or scroll or something without having to reach over and touch your Chromebook. That could be quite helpful. And you can also adjust the sensitivity settings for these actions. So if we click on the smile action here, if we pull this up so we can see it better, it'll show you what registers as a smile. So if we smile at it now, it's going to go green to show you it registered a smile. And you can adjust the sensitivity down here. So if you're just very happy and you're accidentally triggering it all the time, you could make the threshold higher. So you have to really smile in order to trigger it. Or if it's really hard and you can't trigger it always, you could turn it right down. And now even a very slight smile will trigger it. So you can play around with that and get it to where you want. And then you can just try it several times like that, and it will give you an idea of if it's the right setting for you. So that's pretty good. Timmy's able to trigger it quite regularly, but Timmy's not accidentally doing it very often at all. So that's pretty good. And we'll click save there. And you can do similar with opening your mouth or anything like that. And in addition to that, you can also add other actions. So you can do more than just click or scroll. So if we click add action here, it will give us a long list of different actions that we can trigger by a face movement. So we can use it to pause or resume face control, or reset cursor to center, left click the mouse, we already have that one, double click the mouse, so a 2-click, double click, triple click the mouse, or a right click, so using the right click button instead of the left click button, that would be. So if you want to be able to right click without touching the right click button or the trackpad, that one would be good. Drag and drop, so you can drag things. And then there's also things like taking a screenshot or play or pause media. So these are things that even if you're mostly going to just be using your mouse and keyboard and everything normally, maybe you want to set up some things like taking a screenshot or pausing and playing media that you can do without having to touch anything, just by moving your face. So this is where face control can be kind of handy for other things like that. And you can even create a custom key combination. So you can use your face movement to trigger a keyboard shortcut. Timmy has a whole other video on keyboard shortcuts on your Chromebook, but that allows you to do a whole lot more with it. But for this demonstration, Timmy's going to set up a right-click gesture. So you can click left click, which is a normal click, and right click, both with different gestures. So go with right click the mouse, but you could choose any action you want. And then click next here. And now this is where you'll choose what face gesture you do to trigger the action. So obviously you can't do one that's already in use. So smile is already a left click. You can't use smile for anything else. And it's actually not a good idea to use something that's very similar to smile or something like that if you're already using smile. But we could go with something like raise eyebrows or lower eyebrows or something like that, or shift jaw left. So maybe we'll try shift jaw left. We'll click that. Actually, it says that might overlap with open your mouth wide. So maybe we should choose a different one. Perhaps make a circle with your lips. So we'll choose make a circle with your lips and go next. And now we need to basically try it out and adjust the sensitivity. So it hasn't been detected at all yet, but we'll try doing it. There we go, we got it. So we might actually want it to be a bit more sensitive to that. So turn the threshold down. And that seems to work pretty well now. It's pretty easy, although it does it a few times while Timmy's talking, but normally you wouldn't be talking while you're doing this. And it doesn't overlap with smiling or opening your mouth. It is triggering a bit too often while Timmy's talking though, so maybe we'll turn it up a bit more. And try talking again now. Yep, that looks pretty good, so we'll leave it about there and click Save. So now we can right click by making a circle. So if we put the cursor just somewhere like that, that will open up the right click menu without having to touch anything. So you can go through all these functions and set up any function that you think will be helpful to you. And you have to remember different face expressions for it, so maybe not all of them, but you can set up quite a few like that. The functions like clicking and right-clicking will be more useful if you're really trying to completely control your Chromebook without touching it by using your head to move the cursor and everything. But some of the other options like pause or play media or take a screenshot or keyboard shortcut or something like that can be helpful even if you're going to be mostly using your Chromebook normally. To be able to just quickly make a facial expression to do something like that could be pretty helpful. But if you do want to be able to fully control your Chromebook using your face, you will also need to have this setting enabled, use head movements to control the mouse cursor. So Timmy turned it off before, but we'll turn it back on now. And now, if you let go of the mouse, you can move the mouse cursor around on the screen just by moving your head like this. So it's actually fairly intuitive. You basically just move your head to look at the part of the screen that you want the cursor to move to, and it kind of does it for you. You do have to get a bit used to it, obviously. It's not the easiest thing to do, but once you have a bit of practice, you can start to get used to it. But before you do get used to it, you probably want to adjust a few settings here. For example, the cursor speed. Timmy would recommend you click and drag this slider to make the cursor speed a fair bit slower. That just makes it easier, so it's not jumping all over the place. Your cursor is just moving around the screen nice and slowly. Of course, if you turn it up faster, you would be able to get across the screen faster, but especially when you're just starting to learn it, having it move fairly slowly makes it easier. And similarly, if you turn up the cursor stability to be more stable, Timmy finds that makes it a bit easier to control as well. You might prefer it to be a bit more responsive. Maybe we'll go a bit more responsive than that, but having it a bit more stable can certainly help. And there's cursor acceleration here. It's on by default. Timmy would probably leave it on. It just makes it a bit more intuitive. And there's also precision click. But we'll get to that in a second, because now you can actually basically fully use your Chromebook without touching it. So Timmy's hands are not touching it, but Timmy can move over and smile and stuff. And smile to click on things. It takes a bit to get used to. And Timmy has the camera slightly weird because Timmy's recording it, so it's actually not picking it up very well. But as you can see, Timmy is able to So as we just saw there, trying to scroll is actually triggering the right click. So Timmy should probably change that face gesture to a different one. It wasn't perfect, But as we can see, Timmy can now control the Chromebook basically just without touching anything, just by making facial expressions. But a difficulty with this is if you're trying to specifically click on a fairly small specific button using this, you have to position your mouse cursor and then smile. And then as you're smiling, you might move the mouse cursor, you might move your head a little bit, and then the mouse cursor will move. So what this precision click option is for is when you smile to make it click the first time, it won't actually click immediately. It will put the cursor into precision mode where the speed will go down to 50%. So the cursor won't be moving anywhere near as much. So then you smile the first time, it slows the cursor down, and then you can position the cursor much more easily, position it perfectly, and then you smile a second time to actually click. So Timmy will try and show you how that works as well. We'll turn this on here, and it's set to 50%, but you can actually customize it a bit more if you want to, but we'll leave it on 50%. Now, if we try to click on Google Chrome down here, we'll smile once, and it will go into precision click mode, and then you can move it much more easily and smile again, and then it will actually click. So this setting could be a bit annoying to some people because you have to smile twice or do whatever the gesture is twice just to click one thing. So it kind of slows you down a bit, but it does make it a fair bit easier to click on a very specific little button. So you could try that setting out, and it might make it easier for you to use it, or it might not. But that's pretty much all there is to it. You can look through the actions and see what actions you want to set up. And from this point onwards, it's really just about learning it and getting used to it and getting better at it. And then really the only time you would need to touch your Chromebook for anything would be if you want to type something. But you can actually use face control to activate dictation and then speak to your Chromebook to type. So you could even do that without touching it. You will need to have dictation activated and set up first. And Timmy has a full video about how you can set up and use dictation if you want to do that. But Timmy will quickly go and turn dictation on by going to accessibility and keyboard and text input and dictation. We'll turn that on. And it's downloaded the speech files. So now that is all ready to go. We can go back to the cursor and touchpad here and click dictation. Now, if we come back down here, we have to have face control on for this. If we turn this on and then come back down here and add an action, we can add an action to start or stop dictation. So we'll choose start, stop dictation, and we need to choose an action for it. So we might choose raise eyebrows. Hopefully that one will work fairly well, and go next. So we'll try it, raise your eyebrows, and we'll check we're not accidentally triggering it too much. It is a little bit, so we might turn that up a bit. That seems pretty good. We might turn the threshold quite high because it's fairly easy to trigger this one. So we'll go with something like that and click save. And now you can use your mouse to open up a Google Doc or something by just moving your head around and then smiling to click. And then you can place your cursor like that. And then you can raise your eyebrows to start dictation. And then it will be listening to you. So you can just type whatever you will not type, but you can say whatever you want here. And as you can see, your Chromebook is hearing all of that. And you can even try and add a full stop and things. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work quite perfectly. But you can go on typing like that and then stop talking when you want it to actually put it in. And as you can see, we've typed out this entire paragraph in a Google Doc and even opened the Google Doc without having to touch the Chromebook at all. And then, once you're happy with all of that, you'll just raise your eyebrows again to stop the dictation. And now it's stopped, and it's all gone back to normal. And one last thing, if and when you want to turn face control off, you can obviously do it from here, but you probably won't necessarily be in the settings app all the time. So the other option is to click on your notifications down here, and then you will always have this notification that says face control active and a button to turn off face control. So when you want to turn it off, you can just come to this notification and click turn off face control, and it'll ask you if you're sure so that you don't accidentally do it, and we will click yes. And now face control is off. But then if you have face control off and settings closed and you want to turn face control back on, you would have to go back into the settings. So what Timmy would recommend doing is go into the settings and go to accessibility and turn this setting on here, show accessibility options in quick settings if it's not already on, because now you can close settings, and just by clicking on the time here, you'll always see an accessibility menu in here that you can click on, and you can turn on or off all the accessibility options, including face control. So we can really quickly turn it back on there, and it's actually going to open the settings up, but that makes it a bit easier, and you can close settings if you want to. And now face control is once again active. And then when we want to turn it off, we can come back in here and turn it off and click yes. And that's all there is to it. That's how you can use face control to control your Chromebook just by using your face. Most people probably won't be using this all the time because using a mouse and trackpad is typically just a bit easier, but it can certainly be cool and could be quite helpful in certain situations, especially if you can't really touch your Chromebook or you don't want to, or maybe you're sitting across the room from it and you don't want to reach out and touch it. So there are definitely times where it can be helpful, but it does take a bit of practice to get used to and reliably actually do stuff with it. So it might be a little bit frustrating when you first start using it, but eventually you can start to get reasonably good at it. But that's all there is to this video, so hopefully you found it helpful, and we might see you in another video in the future.